You're all welcome to today's news analysis. This is not noise. This is not rumor. This is serious. If you care about Nigeria, if you care about justice, then stay with me till the end. Before we go deep, please subscribe to this channel, turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss important updates like this. Now let's talk. Because what just happened has pushed Nigeria's justice system into global focus. The United States Senate has taken a step that many did not expect. A formal panel has been set up to look into the legal procedures used in the case of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of IPOB, who was recently sentenced to life imprisonment in Nigeria. This is not social media talk. This is not online pressure. This is official news. According to available information, the panel is focused on how Justice Omotosho handled key parts of the trial that led to the life sentence. The attention is not on emotions or political opinions. The attention is on procedure, process, and possible legal errors. This development is important because it shifts the case from a local Nigerian issue to a matter of international concern. Let us remember the timeline. On November 20th, Nnamdi Kanu was sentenced to life imprisonment by a Nigerian court. Not long after the judgment, he was moved from Abuja to Sokoto Prison. That transfer alone raised questions among legal observers, human rights groups, and members of the Nigerian public. Now, those questions have crossed borders. The U.S. Senate panel is reportedly reviewing whether the trial followed due process, whether the defendant's rights were fully respected, and whether the final judgment followed acceptable legal standards under international law. This does not mean the U.S. Senate is overturning any Nigerian court decision. That is not their role. What they are doing is reviewing. They are asking whether the process aligns with global justice expectations, especially in cases involving long sentences and human rights concerns. One key reason this issue gained attention in the United States is the growing concern among lawmakers about how political and security-related trials are handled in different parts of the world. In recent years, U.S. lawmakers have shown interest in cases where there are claims of rushed judgments, limited access to legal defense, or unclear trial procedures. The Nnamdi Kanu case fits into that category. Reports indicate that the panel is examining how quickly the life sentence was reached, what legal steps were taken before the final judgment, and whether any procedural gaps occurred along the way. These are technical questions, but they carry heavy weight. When a life sentence is involved, every step matters. Another issue under review is the transfer to Sokoto Prison. While prison transfers are not new in Nigeria, the timing and distance of this move have raised concerns, especially regarding access to legal counsel and family contact. These factors are often considered important in international legal assessments. It is also important to state clearly that this panel did not appear overnight. Advocacy groups, members of the Nigerian diaspora, and legal analysts have been engaging U.S. lawmakers for months, raising concerns about the case and its wider implications. The result of those engagements is what we are seeing now. This move by the U.S. Senate sends a strong signal. It shows that major global institutions are paying attention to how justice is carried out beyond their borders, especially in cases that draw wide public interest and international reactions. For Nigeria, this moment is sensitive. Nigeria is a sovereign nation with its own laws and courts. But in today's world, high-profile cases do not remain local forever. They are discussed, analyzed, and questioned on global platforms. This is now one of those cases. What happens next is still unclear. The panel's work may take time. Reviews, consultations, and internal discussions are expected. There may be requests for documents. There may be legal opinions. There may also be diplomatic communication. What is clear is this. The case has entered a new phase. It is no longer just about a court ruling in Nigeria. It is now about how that ruling is viewed on the global stage. For Nigerians, this development is a reminder that justice systems are constantly under observation. Decisions made at home can carry consequences far beyond national borders. As this panel begins its review, attention will grow. Reactions will follow. And pressure, whether spoken or silent, will increase. This is the reality of today's global legal environment. And this is why this development matters. This development did not happen by accident. The decision by the United States Senate to set up a panel on the Nnamdi Kanu case is the result of growing concern among American lawmakers about how the case was handled and what it represents in a wider legal and political context. At the center of this move is Senator Chuck Schumer, a Democrat from New York and one of the most influential figures in the U.S. Senate. His involvement gives this issue weight and urgency. This is not a backbench action. It is coming from the top level of U.S. legislative leadership. Senator Schumer, along with other senators, is said to have raised concerns about the process that led to a life imprisonment sentence and the speed at which key decisions were made. Their focus is not on Nigerian politics. Their focus is on legal standards, human rights, and rule of law. In the United States, lawmakers often speak out when they believe a legal process in another country may fall short of international norms. This usually happens in cases involving long prison terms, political sensitivity, or restrictions on civil rights. The Nnamdi Kanu case contains all three elements. From the perspective of the U.S. Senate, a life sentence is one of the most serious punishments any court can give. Because of that, the process leading to such a sentence must be clear, open, and strictly in line with the law. Any perceived weakness in that process attracts attention. Sources familiar with the matter say that U.S. senators are asking key questions. Was the defendant given full access to legal counsel at all stages? Were court procedures followed without pressure or haste? Were international legal principles respected throughout the trial? These questions are standard in international legal reviews. They are not accusations. They are assessments. Another factor that drew attention is the international profile of Nnamdi Kanu. His case has long been discussed outside Nigeria, especially among human rights groups and members of the Nigerian diaspora in Europe and North America. These groups have consistently raised concerns about detention conditions, trial delays, and fairness. Over time, those concerns reached U.S. lawmakers. Members of the Nigerian community in the United States have engaged senators through letters, meetings, and formal submissions. Legal analysts have also shared opinions pointing to areas where the process may need closer examination. These combined efforts helped push the issue onto the Senate's radar. This is how international attention often works. It builds slowly, then reaches a tipping point. For Senator Schumer and others involved, this is also about consistency. The United States regularly speaks about democracy, justice, and human rights around the world. When a case attracts wide attention and raises serious legal questions, silence becomes difficult. The creation of a panel allows the Senate to gather facts, consult experts, and decide what steps, if any, should follow. These steps could range from quiet diplomatic engagement to public statements or policy discussions. It is important to note that the U.S. Senate does not have the power to change Nigerian court decisions. What it does have is influence. Influence in diplomacy, influence in global opinion, and influence in how countries are viewed in international forums. This is why Nigeria's legal handling of high-profile cases matters beyond its borders. The timing of this move is also significant. It comes shortly after the life sentence and the transfer to Sokoto Prison, at a time when international reactions were still forming. The phrase "fast approaching" has been used to describe the urgency with which some senators want the review to happen. That sense of urgency suggests concern, not casual interest. For Nigeria, this means the case is being watched closely by powerful external actors. Every response, every statement, and every legal step going forward will be examined carefully. This is not about taking sides. It is about standards. As the panel begins its work, more information is expected to emerge. Legal interpretations will be debated. Diplomatic channels may be activated. And public discussion will continue to grow. This part of the case shows one clear thing. The Nnamdi Kanu life sentence is no longer just a Nigerian legal issue. It has become an international matter of legal interest. And that reality sets the stage for what comes next. This development places Nigeria at a critical point. With the United States Senate now reviewing aspects of the Nnamdi Kanu life imprisonment case, the focus has shifted from a single court ruling to the wider credibility of Nigeria's justice system. This is where the issue becomes deeper and more serious. When a major global institution like the U.S. Senate shows interest in a case, it sends a message. That message is not about control. It is about observation, standards, and accountability. Nigeria, like every other country, operates within a global legal environment where actions are monitored and evaluated beyond national borders. The immediate implication is increased international scrutiny. Legal experts, foreign governments, and human rights bodies are likely to pay closer attention to how Nigerian authorities respond. Silence, delay, or unclear communication could raise more questions than answers. One key issue is perception. Nigeria has often defended its sovereignty in legal matters, and rightly so. However, sovereignty does not remove the responsibility to meet basic legal expectations recognized worldwide. Fair trial standards, access to legal representation, clear procedures, and transparent judgments are principles shared across democratic systems. If the U.S. Senate panel identifies procedural concerns, even without making formal accusations, pressure may increase on Nigeria to clarify its legal position. This pressure may come through diplomatic discussions rather than public confrontation, but its impact would still be felt. Another major implication relates to foreign relations. The United States and Nigeria maintain diplomatic, economic, and security ties. High-profile legal controversies can affect how these relationships are discussed behind closed doors. While no immediate sanctions or actions have been announced, legal concerns often influence future cooperation, especially in areas linked to governance and human rights. This does not mean drastic action is coming. It means conversations will change. Nigeria's response to this moment will shape those conversations. There is also the domestic angle. Many Nigerians are watching closely, not only supporters or critics of Nnamdi Kanu, but citizens concerned about how justice works in the country. International attention often amplifies local debates, making them harder to ignore. For some Nigerians, the U.S. Senate panel reinforces existing concerns about transparency and due process. For others, it raises questions about external involvement in domestic affairs. Both reactions are expected, and both are part of the national discussion. What matters now is clarity. Clear communication from Nigerian authorities can reduce speculation. Clear legal explanations can strengthen confidence. Avoiding emotional responses and focusing on facts will be important in the days ahead. Another issue likely to come up is precedent. If international institutions begin reviewing Nigerian court procedures in high-profile cases, it may encourage more global interest in future trials involving political or security matters. This could lead to more pressure for reforms, improved transparency, and stronger legal safeguards. Whether this is viewed as interference or encouragement depends largely on how Nigeria handles it. For Nnamdi Kanu himself, the Senate panel does not immediately change his legal status. He remains sentenced to life imprisonment, and he remains in Sokoto Prison. Any legal change would still have to come through Nigerian courts or legal processes. However, international reviews often influence long-term outcomes. They shape public opinion, diplomatic tone, and future legal strategies. Even when they do not lead to direct action, they leave a record. That record matters. As the panel continues its work, Nigerians should expect more statements, more analysis, and possibly more diplomatic engagement. Media attention will increase. Legal experts will debate interpretations. Advocacy groups will continue to speak. This phase of the case is not about drama. It is about responsibility. Nigeria is being watched, not because it is weak, but because it is important. How it responds will reflect its confidence in its institutions and its commitment to justice. The coming weeks will be critical. Every decision, every response, and every explanation will shape how this issue is remembered. This is not the end of the matter. It is the beginning of a wider assessment. And for Nigeria, the world is paying attention. As this issue continues to unfold, it is important to separate emotion from fact. What is before the public is not a rumor or speculation, but a developing news matter with international dimensions. The involvement of the United States Senate does not cancel Nigeria's judicial authority, but it does introduce a higher level of global attention. This attention is focused on process, procedure, and compliance with accepted legal standards, not on political loyalty or public opinion. Nigeria's courts remain the final authority on Nigerian law. However, in a globalized world, Legal actions taken within national borders are often reviewed and discussed internationally, especially when they involve life sentences, human rights considerations, and political sensitivity. This is the reality of modern international relations. The Nnamdi Kanu case now sits at the intersection of domestic law and international observation. How Nigerian institutions respond to questions raised, formally or informally, will matter. Clear explanations based on legal reasoning will strengthen confidence. Silence or defensive reactions may deepen concern. It is also important to recognize that the review process being discussed is not immediate judgment. Panels gather information, consult experts, and assess facts over time. Outcomes, if any, are usually gradual. This means there may be no sudden announcement or dramatic shift in the short term. For Nigeria, this moment presents both a challenge and an opportunity. The challenge is to maintain confidence in its judicial system while addressing concerns in a calm, professional manner. The opportunity lies in demonstrating transparency, legal maturity, and respect for due process. Public discourse should remain informed and measured. Extreme positions, misinformation, or political exploitation of the issue will not contribute to understanding. What is required is careful attention to verified updates and official statements. The international spotlight on this case also reinforces the need for strong institutions. When systems are clear, consistent, and accountable, external scrutiny becomes less threatening and more manageable. This applies not only to this case, but to future high-profile legal matters as well. As developments continue, the focus should remain on facts, legal principles, and responsible communication. The direction taken in the coming period will influence how this case is viewed historically and how Nigeria's justice system is perceived globally. This matter remains open, evolving, and under observation. Further updates are expected as reviews progress and official responses emerge.